Hi there, it's January the 31st and we're continuing our journey through the Gospel of Matthew, and we're going from chapter 20 verses 29 through to chapter 21 verse 22. So Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. He's on his way to declare his messiahship, and obviously he's going, as he says, he's told the disciples he's going to die and he's going to be raised again. As he goes through on his journey, he is seen, or he's picked up by two blind men who are sitting by the side of the road, and they hear that Jesus is passing by, and they also hear that this is the promised Messiah. And so they begin to cry out, and they shout out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on us. Now, the Son of David call is very much a messianic call. He's the one who's seen to be in the line of the great king to re-establish the throne of David, which is part of the prophetic promise. And here are two blind men crying this out, and perhaps Matthew, as a Jew writing for Jews, is saying something about the nature of Israel that has not been seeing the Messiah. And then Jesus opens their eyes and they see not only his healing but also the fact that he is the Son of David. And then we move into chapter 21, where Jesus openly declares his messiahship. He openly walks into Jerusalem. Well, he rides into Jerusalem, so he organizes to have a donkey brought, and it seems as though this donkey is already organized and that people will know that this is Jesus asking for it. Now Matthew recalls the words in Zechariah 9:9 of this prophecy that Jesus is going to arrive, the Messiah is going to arrive on a donkey. And as Jesus comes in, the crowds take palm branches from the trees and they wave them, they lay their cloaks in front of him, and they use words actually from Psalm 118, which is part of the great Hallel, the great praise series of psalms, which were very common in Israel for festivals. And at this festival they are calling out, that they're saying to Jesus as he comes, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, welcome the one who comes in the name of the Lord. And they shout Hosanna, and Hoshana is a Hebrew word that means rescue us, save us. And so there's a connection with salvation. There's also an interesting connection through history here, because 200 years before this, Judas Maccabeus, in his entry to Jerusalem to establish the new dynasty, overcoming the Greeks and the Syrians, he is greeted with people waving palms. So there are all sorts of resonances with the story of Israel here. And Jesus goes into the temple, and there in the temple he does something very strong, and he throws out the money changers and the dove sellers, the people who are making money out of the worship of God. He gets rid of them, and he says this is to be a house of prayer, this is not a den of thieves. And he expels them. But then people come to him in the temple and he heals them. And here's something very significant too, that here in the place where God is supposed to reside, and of course his presence has never actually come back to this second temple, here is God himself coming in the form of Jesus and healing in the temple courts. And as a result, children are shouting out. They're shouting out, Hosanna, Son of David, save us, rescue us. And the leaders are very upset by this, and they want these children to stop calling him this messianic title. But Jesus quotes back to them Psalm 8, have you not heard it said that out of the lips of children he has ordained praise? And that's very interesting, because Jesus is saying he is willing to receive the praise that has been ordained out of the lips of children. Again, this all highlights this messianic arrival of Jesus. And then after this, Jesus goes out of the temple, and he's going and sees a fig tree having just leaves. He can't find any fruit on it. And he speaks to this fig tree, and it withers. He doesn't produce any fruit. Now there's perhaps a link here to a picture from Matthew of the state of Israel, that Israel is not producing fruit, they're just full of leaves, full of foliage, full of something to look at, but no fruitfulness. But Jesus also gives his disciples a lesson on faith and says, look, because they're amazed that the tree has withered, and he says, you see that's nothing. This is just simple faith. And actually, you could even say to a mountain, be removed, and it would be so. Jesus is constantly seeking to train his apprentices, to train his disciples in the way of trusting him, in the way of complete abandonment to the word and the ways of God. And even in this time where he is revealing his messiahship, or he knows he's going to die and he knows he's going to be raised again, Jesus is constantly in that training mode. We can also respond to that faith. We can respond to that fact that Jesus is looking, he's not looking for foliage from us, but for fruit. He wants to see the fruit that will last, as John says. And so today, let's seek to be fruitful for him in our faith, trusting him, looking to him, not just having leaves that look good. Have a very good January the 31st.